Accuracy and me don't get along. Believe me. The bananas. It's not a potassium thing. I'm just a big fan. I might. Hey, if my source said to me they're going to Czechoslovakia this week, how am I to blame? I'm passing the information.
Here he is, one half of the team, Donnie and Dolly on Czech television weekdays from 10 to 12, our Canucks Insider, and Friday regular, the one and only Mr. Rick Dhaliwal. Good afternoon.
Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
It couldn't be better. Busy week, busy day today in Canucksville. Yeah. We certainly, in our industry, we can't complain this week about not having... I mean, there's going to be some dry spells coming up here when it comes to Canucks news, but you cannot complain about news this week.
Oh, what's your timeline? What's your timeline on the coaching decision? Do you think this goes as close to June 1st as you can imagine, or much earlier?
They're all moving targets, Blake. Matt and I got to talk to Bruce Boudreau's agent, and it depends. If teams are calling Bruce and calling the Canucks trying to get permission to talk to Bruce, maybe that happens. Things can change quickly, but the original feeling I got was they're going to take their time. He's going to go back to Pennsylvania. He's from Hershey, or he's in that area, and he's going to golf and regroup and relax. Look, the one thing the agent said to me was, it's been 4 months of must-win games. It was draining. And when you look at why so many Canucks did not go to the World Hockey Championships, that's the simple answer. They're drained. I mean, OEL's going, which is fine. He's going for Sweden. But I got to be honest with you. It was draining on the players after the firings of Travis Green and Jim Benning, because you're playing catch-up. And if you want to make the playoffs and you're playing catch up all the time, every game, every week, every month, it's draining. So you know what? He's going to take some time. He's going to go back. He's going to golf. He's going to regroup. And look, something could come up. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they take the complete right up till June 1st. That wouldn't surprise people I've talked to. Or something pops up job-wise. You never know. So Blake, to answer your question, it could happen any day or any week or right up till June 1st.
What did you make of the way Rutherford and Allvin characterized the coaching of this team and the decision they've left to Boudreau? I saw Donnie was very strong on that on Twitter.
Donnie didn't like it. He thought that, the guy went 32-15-10. Okay. So, but I see both sides. If you're going to come out and say we're not going to extend his contract, you got to tell us why. So guess what, folks? Yep. He told you why. A zone exits, a structure. The goalie won most of the games. So he did it smartly. Jim Rutherford, I don't care what anyone says. He's telling everybody why they didn't extend him. Well, here are the reasons why. Okay, so he did that. Maybe it was a little harsh. And Matt, I'll go back to you and I talking to Boudreau's agent. I don't think they were doing cartwheels. A guy that went 32-15-10 certainly wants to feel a whole lot better leaving the city of Vancouver than listening to a press conference where he's basically told he wasn't that great, despite the fact you're 32-15-10. Yeah, that's a great record. But here's why it's not a great record. So it works both ways. Look, the Canucks, they save face. If he says yes and comes back, he's back on the 1-year deal. If they don't, they can always say we didn't fire him. We asked him to come back.
Yeah. Rutherford had some say in this hiring. So if it was, my sense is this is Allvin that is speaking.
Oh, that's the sense. It's the people I talk to. And look, are we really, really surprised? New regime comes in. But the whole thing was going to get to this point because the owner hired the coach first. Then he brought in the president and the GM. And last time I checked, most GMs, when they get a new job in any city, anywhere, they probably most likely want their own guy. And if Allvin does want his own guy, he's not the first guy in the history of hockey to get a GM job and want his own guy. That's not a big story. He wants his own guy. But don't you think the owner put them in this position by hiring the coach first? And that's where a lot of the problems, and that's why we are where we are today, is because the coach was hired before the GM.
Yeah, and comments that Rutherford made about managing up is a problem when you're paying coaches not to coach. Well, I think you pretty much laid it bare. We want the ability to fire Bruce next year without having to owe him any more money. And quite frankly, if he wanted to leave for a different job between now and June 1st, we're not standing in his way.
Yeah, and Bruce is stuck. He's a little bit stuck too, because if you do go back, you kind of know the GM doesn't really want you.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at every practice saying, or my and Donnie made a great point. Is he looking over his shoulder at every practice? Are my zone exits okay? Or is the goalie winning too many games? Is the structure okay? They kind of set the template to say that these are the areas got to be better. And I don't know. He's in a tough spot. He comes back. He's going to have a wonderful record to get an extension if he comes back, right? So it's a tough position for him as well.
But I mean, if you're the coach, don't you have to have the confidence that you're going to get that wonderful record? Like, to me, if I'm Bruce Boudreau, no, I'm not coaching with anybody looking over my shoulder, but I want to stuff it to them and show them you didn't need any more sample size. I'm going to coach and I'm going to win games. And you know what, guys, I don't think it matters how he wins games. If he wins games and the zone exits are still, and Demko's still standing on his head, how do they get upset with a 600 winning percentage in October and November? A 600 winning percentage will end up being a 600 winning percentage. However he makes it happen, I don't think that anybody's going to be too upset.
Here's another one for you guys. You want better zone exits, right? Get better defensemen. And the last time I checked, Rutherford started that conversation about the zone exits by saying, yeah, we don't have the greatest blue line in the NHL. Well, how about getting better defensemen who can move the puck?
But isn't that the goal? Isn't like, I mean, they're not going to take responsibility for this roster. It wasn't their roster.
Okay,
right?
but then don't blame the coach for the bad zone exits either, because he's working with what he's got. He took over a team that fired the coach and GM. So we know he took over a bad situation, right? And he did really good coming out of a bad situation with 32, 15, and 10.
But that's their point, Rick, is there's enough concern there about the roster and about the mix here that, you got it across the line. But we need to see the totality of this. We're going to give you our roster. We want to see how you do with our roster and with how we intend this team to play in the future. And if you show us that it all works symbiotically there, then by all means, your extension's coming.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. I'm just saying the optics aren't going to look good when the coach goes 32, 15, and 10 and doesn't come back.
And that's been my point all week. It is completely fair for Allvin and Rutherford to say, we want to play a different way schematically. We need Bruce to tailor his coaching methods accordingly, but to shit on a guy who's won 65% of his games, as they did, I thought was a little out of order.
But the Mike Sullivan thing is the perfect example that he brought up. The guy had won 2 cups, went into a final year. They didn't re-up Mike Sullivan. He had 2 cups.
Yep.
So
and
team was also being sold, Blake, right? So you don't want to burden. You want to burden the sale with contracts that extend.
This is where I love Rutherford. He's a great talker. He gives you clarity. Everything is well thought out, and it's a big change for us.
Right,
because
exactly.
It's a big change for us because in the past 8 years, the voice of the Canucks didn't give you that clarity. And the voice of the Canucks, after how many press conferences did we go confused? There's no more confusion. Jim Rutherford is a great talker. He reminds me of Pat Quinn and Brian Burke. When he talks, you listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember ever a press conference with Quinn or Burke where I didn't leave going, okay, I know what's going on. The clarity is there. The organization is there. The vision is there. He's articulated it well. This is where this is a big win for the owner of the Vancouver Canucks, is when this guy talks, people listen, and you get the goods. You get them, and you feel, whether you agree with them or not, you come out of that press conference thinking, okay, Canucks are in good hands.
Rick, it also gets the brand out there. We are talking about the brand of the Vancouver Canucks, and the coach actually gets credit for that too, because we went from a green that was started to clam up as well to now we had this dribbling hose of information to a fire hose. A garden hose to a fire hose of information on a daily basis. Yeah. So it's a win-win for the fans for sure.
Absolutely. And I think Jim articulated very well. But I'm with Matt on this, and Matt's reporting in the past week about, I think this is a simple case of a new GM coming in wanting his own guy. And when he first got here, Allvin dropped that The practices have to be better.
Yep.
Practice habits have to be better. You kind of got little glimpse. And then he did a radio interview where he didn't give Bruce a real big vote of confidence. Oh, we'll discuss that after the season. But the worst thing that happened for Allvin is that Bruce kept winning and winning and winning. And then we got to game 80 and there was still a chance. Nobody, including you two, cannot tell me when they made the coaching change that you thought they'd still be mathematically in it in game 80.
No way.
And they were.
No way.
No.
Yeah, like I said the other day, I think there's a new GM rushing his fences a little bit and not maybe reading the politics as astutely as he would with the benefit of experience in the job.
Yeah, but you can also see every GM wants their own guy. And you just saw today, Clancy, is in charge of scouting, got some, he's starting to implement some new scouts, a new regime, new people, new thoughts. You always hire people. Who do you hire when you hire people you trust, people you're comfortable with? And as Blake was the first report in the market, when Rutherford got the job and there was going to be a rush of former Penguins into the market, well, guess what? That's exactly what's happened, right? And new regime, they want their own guys. Been happening for 100 years. It's going to happen for another 100. It's not a big deal if the GM wants his own guy. But the problem here is the old guy went 32, 15, and 10 and did a credible job, and the optics just don't look good.
And was hired by the owner with the president of hockey operations consent at the time. Yeah.
Could they not foresee that this could happen when you hire a GM before the new GM, or a coach before the new GM? Of course they could have.
In terms of Boudreau landing spots, and there's just the openings now in Philadelphia, Winnipeg, and Detroit, he's quite close with Chuck Fletcher. They work together in Minnesota, but Ricky, what I've heard there is Chuck Fletcher maybe isn't on the firmest footing himself with the season that the Flyers had, and that the coaching decision may be Chuck Fletcher in conjunction with his superiors, as opposed to Chuck go out and and hire the next coach.
Yeah, and the other one for you there is, look, you have to look at Bruce's age. He's 67. In Philadelphia, how many years? Like, honestly, Matt, they're a mess. The Flyers have been a mess for a long time. They're a mess again this year. They just traded Giroux, and look, they're looking at. Are they looking at a rebuild? If you're 67, do you really want to go to that situation? I don't care if you know Fletcher or not, but Bruce has got to do some thinking. He's 67. The best roster he might have out there out of all these is the Vancouver Canucks. It might be the best situation for him.
And I hear that. I would think he probably feels in Philadelphia he's wanted by his bosses more, valued by his bosses more, and would have.
Who cares if they're 5 years away, Matt?
Well, I think he would have he'd have a longer leash. I think he feels like, okay, well, at least I get 2 to 3 years out of this job as opposed to next year where the first sign of trouble and I'm likely out of here. So,
but to Rick's point, 67, you want to win.
And
yeah, you want to win.
If you're employed in both spots, you want to win.
Guys, I think he just wants to coach in the NHL, and the Philadelphia Flyers are 2 hours from his home. So I think the Flyers would be quite a draw there. Again, if he's a candidate, if Fletcher is going to hire him.
We'll see where Bruce has got a decision to make. And the great thing that Rutherford told me on Tuesday is that, you know what, he's going to go home. He's going to take his time. We want him to take his time, make the decision. And when I talked to Jim, he said, you know what, we would love to have him back. We would love to have him back, despite, obviously people think they threw him under the bus, but they were just justifying why we can't give him an extension.
Ryan Johnson has given Trent Cull in the Abbotsford staff.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming because I'll tell you something. On Tuesday, Jim Rutherford told me that he loves the way Trent Cull gets players ready for the NHL. And I know the biggest supporter of Trent Cull in this organization is Ryan Johnson. I knew this was going to happen, and I knew it. And you could read the tea leaves. And Ryan just loves Trent Cull. He absolutely does. And when Jim was telling me and I tweeted it out, Jim Rutherford, I like Trent Cull. He gets the players ready for the NHL level. I knew this was coming, and I know that Ryan Johnson is a big supporter of Trent Cull. So no surprise there. No surprise.
We went for a bit of a walk down Draft Pick Boulevard late in yesterday's show, talking about, okay, it's not like it's been a nonstop parade of prospects out of that AHL outfit into the NHL. But what has he been given on a year-to-year basis? And needless to say, he hasn't been able to turn any deep picks into, certified National Hockey League players just yet. But there hasn't been a lot to work with. Certainly didn't like the way Trent Cull handled players early on, Rick. But hey, the fact that he was playing Danila Klimovich for most of the season, I realized he didn't play him in the playoffs, but the fact that he played him most of the season is, that's better than nothing, right?
Okay, hold it a second. Let me get to Klimovich. First of all, he was one of the youngest players ever to play in the American Hockey League. He started at the age of 18 and turned 19 a few weeks ago. I'm okay with healthy scratching him for the playoffs. Young guy, still learning. The trust isn't there, which is fine. I'm okay with that. What absolutely nobody can understand is why Jet Wu is playing as a forward when you drafted him in the second round. Second round picks are high currency in a league with 32 teams. The teams are looking for their first, third round picks to make it because there's so many teams in the league now, and it's just Jet Wu. What does he think about the organization when they're playing him as a forward? When he's looking at his future or lack of in Vancouver, this was a high bantam pick, 4th overall by the Moose Jaw Warriors. The Giants had the 3rd pick. They took Tyler Popovich, and Tyler was a great 6'3" center, local Surrey kid, which is and anyways, to my point. He's been a star defenseman all the way through, and then you get to the American League level, and they're playing you as a forward. That doesn't speak great development to me, not at all.
Okay, buddy. Well, we thank you for this. We look forward to catching
up. Hold it a second.
Here we go.
So I golfed with Sekeres.
Oh, that's right. We did golf.
And by the way, he was talking to my buddy Daryl Tumber, and I came in. I had the car blasting. What was the song? Matt, remember the song?
Chilliwack?
No, John Fogerty. John Fogerty, Old Man Down the Road.
Yep.
And the Sekeres is in the parking lot. I put the window down, cranked it up. It was good. But Sekeres on hole 17, and he's got an eagle attempt. Beautiful shots, both of them. And he missed the eagle attempt. Sorry for that. But anyways, got the birdie. But the eagle, and it was a makeable eagle putt. But I just want to say,
would you say I choked, Rick?
You freaking choked. Anyways, and I told you before you took that shot, I said, take your time. Take your time. Take your time. And he didn't take his time. He just rushed it, and he ended up with a birdie. He should have had an eagle. Anyways, just to get to an eagle on 17, beautiful work. So good.
And then he goes on to 18 and he played like bleeping ass.
Right? That's quite right. That's quite right. It was another snowman on 18.
No Blake Price there. And Price continues to avoid me like the plague. And, I've golfed with every media guy in this city except Price. I get it. The hint. Wink, wink. I get it.
It's the weekend, Ricky. I've got children. I've got children, man.
Ricky.
Oh, yeah, hey, and I don't.
Ricky,
give me a break.
Coming up here in the summer, we're going to be able to record some shows early, play out in the afternoon, so you can come straight from your show and join us.
Really?
Yeah.
You're the only two guys I know in the history of this city for media that golf in the morning then go to work. We can't do it. Donnie and Ryan don't do it.
You can play after. You're done right now. You could go and play golf right now.
Go play golf right now, Rick. We'll set you up at Northampton right now if you're interested.
No,
right?
It's anyways, a beautiful course. I love 18. 18 looks like it's 5 miles long, but it takes 3 shots to get there. But I'll tell you, 18. I love 18 at Northlands.
Rick Dhaliwal, everybody, every Friday here with Sekeres and Price.
Adios.
That's as close as I want to be to Rick Dhaliwal. He's right. I am trying
honestly, though, he's your biggest cheerleader on the course. Like, he cheers on everyone.
Yeah.
And loudly. And he doesn't trust himself with anything more than like a 5-wood or a 7-wood. So it's like, hybrids and irons off the tee, down the middle.
It's like playing with a 75-year-old.
Exactly. But with large energy in cheering on the group. He is a treasure. Absolutely adore him.